Hi everyone, my name's Bella, and I'm going to be presenting a research proposal on domestic cat vocalizations, specifically feline vocalizations in response to bird prey. My research question is pretty simple. It's, what is the purpose of feline chirping in the presence of birds? Some of you may not know what I mean by feline chirping, but we'll get into that in the next slide. My corresponding hypothesis is that domestic cats vocalize when birds are nearby in order to mimic the prey species. Finally, my prediction is that domestic cats utilize aggressive mimicry to aid in the predation of bird species, and therefore will vocalize if birds are nearby. Before diving any deeper into my research proposal, I'm going to show you what type of vocalization it is that I'm interested in. It's an unusual chirping chatter that some cats do when they see birds out the window. If you have cats, you may have seen them do this. If not, here you go. Let's talk about what is already known about domestic cat vocalizations. In a study performed by Molk in 1944, domestic cat vocalizations were categorized into 16 distinct vocal patterns. The ultimate finding was that cat vocalizations did not follow a symbolic pattern like a language, but acted as somatic responses that have functional relations to particular situations in the cat's life. This is important to my research because these findings imply that cats vocalize in ways that are a function of the immediate need of his situation rather than as a fixed language. I did some research on related cat species vocalizations during hunting and found a few interesting points. While initially studying the vocalization of the wild-pied tamarin in Brazil, researchers unintentionally gained insight into the hunting strategy of the margay, a wild cat native to South America, also known as the tree ocelot. What they found was fascinating. They heard sounds that sounded like tamarin vocalizations, but they discovered that they belonged to a nearby margay. The vocalizations by the wild cat closely mimicked those made by adolescent tamarins. The sounds were close enough to attract adult tamarins to investigate. This is the only known and studied case of cats imitating prey. I also found some research on mountain lion vocalizations. While a study wasn't formally conducted, in 1993, Smallwood was inspired to investigate the purpose of mountain lion vocalizations that were made during hunting or pursuit of prey. Smallwood outlines 4 hypotheses based on observations of mountain lion behavior. Number 1, they vocalize to help cubs track their location. Number 2, to increase cubs' excitement towards hunting. Number 3, in an attempt to flush prey from hiding. And number 4, to freeze or intimidate prey species. While none of these hypotheses offer any theories about mimicry, I do feel that this research is important in the context of my study because it demonstrates that vocalizations can be used as a tool in hunting. If my hypothesis isn't accepted, these may be good directions to direct future research efforts. What is aggressive mimicry? Aggressive mimicry is mimicry by a predator or parasite that is performed in order to indirectly influence the prey's behavior. This is often done by imitating a harmless model, either an inanimate object like you see the anglerfish and the snow leopard doing, or imitating a harmless species like you see the spider imitating a ladybug. Before I jump into my experimental design, I thought I'd share what got me onto this subject. I have 3 cats, Bean, Curry, and Taz. I've seen each of them chatter at birds behind a window. While this is very entertaining to say the least, it's always kind of puzzled me. I've never been able to find scientific explanations for the behavior, only speculations. That being said, I thought it would be interesting to design a study to gain some insight. Let's jump into the experimental design. A reminder that my research question inquires about the purpose of feline chirping in the presence of birds. My corresponding hypothesis is that domestic cats vocalize when birds are nearby in order to mimic the prey species. That being said, the independent variable is whether or not the cat can hear the bird vocalization. We manipulate this by playing the bird vocalization through speakers, turning them on or off for different treatment groups. My dependent variable will be whether or not the participating cat exhibits the vocalization of interest in response to manipulation of the independent variable. While both the control and treatment groups will be presented with a realistic bird simulator or a native bird behind a glass barrier, the control group will be paired without a bird vocalization. My proposed sample size is 20 cats. Since they have to be volunteered by their owners, a higher sample size seems unrealistic with travel distance for the participating animals. For this particular experiment, I would plan on using within subjects design. This means that each cat participates in both groups, both the treatment and control. As for manipulating the independent variable, since the bird is behind glass for ethical reasons, the cat would not be able to hear any vocalizations that the bird's using, and therefore wouldn't be able to mimic the bird's vocalizations. In this case, we need to use speakers to ensure that the cat can hear the bird vocalization despite the glass. We do need to control for any confounding variables in this experiment. One of the ways that we can do this is by using the within subjects design. The reason I would choose this design is because I would imagine that individual cats vary in their reactivity to prey and their prey preferences, so it only makes sense to use one cat for both the control and the treatment group. The second variable that I would control for would be the age of the subjects. Younger cats tend to be more playful than geriatric cats, so it doesn't make sense to me to use vastly different ages of participants with such a small sample size. We are using only 20 cats after all. Perhaps with a larger sample size, we could vary the age of the participating cats in order to get a better idea of a generalized result, but that isn't the case in this theoretical study. The final variable I would control for would be the feeding schedule of the participants. Some research has found that hungry cats may be more active in hunting strategy or play hunting with toys. For this reason, it would be important to control for this effect and make sure each participant is at the same point in their daily feeding schedule. As much as it makes sense to control for the environmental setting, I would imagine that naturalistic observation would be best for this theoretical experiment. While there may be possible issues with this, I also see issues with an unfamiliar laboratory setting. Such settings may inhibit a domestic cat's more spontaneous behavior. The participants will be presented with a bird behind glass. The presentation of the bird will be paired with either no sound, the control group, or a vocalization that will be played through an audio speaker at a similar volume of that of a bird. The cat's reaction will be recorded. Each cat will participate in 5 trials in each experiment for a total of 10 observations per cat. This adds up to 200 observations for the total experiment. Each trial will continue until either the participating cat responds to the stimulus or 5 minutes has passed, whichever comes first. It is important to understand that because these would not be done in laboratory settings, any results can only provide evidence for research that may be done in a laboratory. If any results indicate functionality of the cat vocalization, it would make sense to replicate this experiment in more controlled laboratory settings. One reason that I find my research is justified is that we could get a better understanding of the evolutionary context of behavior in cats. We can use the results of the study to get a better idea of the unifying behaviors between sister species or novel behaviors that differentiate sister species. Better yet, these results could shed light on predator behavior in the cat family and how the evolution of these vocalizations increase fitness of an individual through acquisition of resources. Also, I hope that with my research proposition we can learn more about our pets. Any results of this study could help pet owners get a better idea of how to engage their pets in a more engaging and realistic play. Knowing more about a cat's hunting strategies can benefit our ability to give them a more enriching indoor environment as a house cat.